Recording in progress.
Hi, can you hear me?
Are you hearing this weird echo thing also? Can you hear it also? Or is it just me?
I can't hear you, Ryan, but it looks like your mic is on.
Yeah.
Looks like video's on.
Yeah. Ooh.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Guiu, and I'm the curator here at the San Francisco Botanical Garden. While our guests are continuing to trickle in, we'll give a few more moments, and then I will introduce our specialty guest speaker for this evening. So another minute or two, and we'll get started.
So it looks like Alexis had a question, just a general SFBG question, but Alexis is asking if the guided tour at the garden ends in April.
Well, I would say, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, our Magnolia curator tour ended last week, but as always, we do have public tours on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And so you can check out our website for that. I'll send you the link for that right now.
All right. Well, we are a couple minutes in, and I would like to introduce our speaker. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. So this meeting is being recorded. And also, you are all muted and your cameras are turned off. So no worries. No one's going to see you or hear you. Throughout our lecture today, if you have any questions, you can submit them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. At the very end, there will be some time for me to accumulate your questions and ask them to our guest speaker. And without further ado, I'll make the big introduction. So today we are very excited for all of you to be part of our Magnolia speaker series. And we have a lovely guest speaker coming from South Korea. This is Dr. Yong-Shik Kim from the Chollipo Arboretum Foundation. And he's going to be speaking with us today about his work with Korean magnolias and also the Arboretum's very extensive collection of magnolias. They have 64 species, which is actually even larger than our species collection here at San Francisco Botanical Garden. So we are very excited to hear about the work they're doing, the species they grow and conserve. And without further ado, I will let Dr. Yong-Shik Kim take it away from here and give his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Ryan. It is my great honor to present about magnolias in Korea and the Chollipo Arboretum. Before my presentation, I want to show one photos which are taken in at Christmas Day 2017 at San Francisco Botanic Garden. During my short stays there, I sought Chollipo Arboretum because I know that San Francisco Botanic Garden was created at the sand dunes. Chollipo Arboretum was same as, so I was very impressed while I'm staying at your botanic garden. Could you see my shirt? It is same shirt which I wore when I visit your botanic garden, because I won't think about again during my presentation. I want to briefly introduce the Magnolias of Korea, Chollipo Arboretum, and cultures of magnolias in Korea, and also natural habitat of Magnolia Sieboldii, Corvus, and Compressor. We have 3 species in the wild habitat in South Korea. And also, I want to shortly mention on ornamental values, especially in urban greening or home gardens in Korea. And finally, I want to introduce magnolias at Chollipo Arboretum Foundation. The photos on the right side, I made a photo last October in Jeju Island, the habitat of Magnolia Sieboldii. This habitat is a stream side with a rocky topography, and the height of this Magnolia Sieboldii is about 2.5 meters and 3 meters in width. So it is very natural forms in the wild habitat of Magnolia Sieboldii. I want to introduce Carl Perez Miller, who created the Chollipo Arboretum, actually the first private arboretum in Korea. He was born in Pennsylvania, 1921, and landed to Korea in 1945, just end of the Second World War as a US Navy officer. And he worked at the Bank of Korea since 1949 to 1979. And during his work at the Bank of Korea, he purchased a very small land at seaside at Chollipo in 1962. The purpose of the land at that time was not his intention. The village people asked to the rich American people to vote his land because he really wanted marry her daughter. So he needed money. So it was post vote of the land in 1962. The Chollipo Arboretum was started from 1962. And 8 years later, in 1970, he started to make a Chollipo Arboretum because he realized that there are no arboretum in Western levels, because there are 2 arboretums in Korea at that time. One is for the timber resources, and the other one is for the university-owned arboretum. So real definition of arboretum was not exist at that time. So I thought that Mr. Carl Perez Miller, the founder of the Arboretum, had a great works for Korea. And in 1979, he naturalized Korea. He was the second person who naturalized Korean citizenships. And in 1989, he awarded Beach Medal from the Royal Horticultural Society in the United Kingdom. And 2002, he was passed away at the age of 1981 by the cancer. These 4 photos is about the beginning of the stage when he started Arboretum. At that time, the village was very poor, and also the forest was poor, because at that time, village people uses the pure wood from the forest. and also the background of the village was sanded in. The Chollipo Arboretum was born like these soils, and Mr. Perez Miller started to grow seedlings from the nursery at the Arboretum. This is a shelter belt because the wind is from the sea is so strong, and also all the works were manpowered. No mechanics was introduced at that time. This is an overview of the territory or land of the Chollipo Arboretum. The land was fragmented into several parts because at that time he bought the land. He was not intent to make arboretum. Without bought this land, he thought that nature conservation was very problem. So he decided to secure the land like this. Also, Chollipo Arboretum has a small island, and we can walk into the island by the tide twice a day. And this is very specific landscaping for the Arboretum. This area is a main garden, so-called Miller Garden, open to the public. And the other areas are not permitted to visitors, but only guided tour is possible. Chollipo Arboretum has 4 missions. One is to collect trees and shrubs from temperate regions of the world, and to create and maintain the beauty of Korean traditional gardens at Chollipo, and to research and educate the peoples, and to provide the love of nature and inspire happiness for everyone. This is the view of the main garden. For example, when Perez Miller started the Arboretum, all the land was paddy. So only Japanese black pine, a very small black pine was scattered around here, and no trees at all around this. And this part was completely sand-dune areas. I remembered San Francisco Botanic Garden. I recall these areas. Chollipo Arboretum has 3 departments. One is for plant department of plant, has 3 teams, and Department of Education and Research has 2 teams, education and research. And the Department of Planning and Management has 3 teams, management, marketing, and facility management. We have 44 staff members and also 26 internship training students for 10 months period. We recruited from 24 universities from Department of Biology, Forestry, and Landscape Architecture or Horticulture. A student was selected for the internship program. Chollipo Arboretum has about 17,000 taxa so far, but we have 5 genres collection intensively. For example, camellia, we have more than 1,000 taxa. Hibiscus, a national flower of Korea, more than 340 taxa. And the maple, more than 250. And the hollies, one of the very good collections in the world. This photo was made 2 years ago. when we documented new wild populations of Chinese holly, it was first time to find this wild population and significant meaning to conserve the wild populations of Chinese holly in Korean Peninsula, because this area is northern part of natural distribution of Chinese holly. Chollipo Arboretum has intensive education programs. For example, gardeners program supported by the Korea Forest Service, and also teachers from middle and high school, including primary schools. We have education programs for teachers. And also we have a very small rice paddy. Before I came to Chollipo Arboretum, only Arboretum staff participated for planting and harvesting. But I decided to invite primary students from local areas to participate to planting and harvesting rice at the Arboretum. And also we symbolize the rice paddy like as a keyboard or dust from by umbrella or pounding year or 1970s. So the visitors looks very interesting at our rice paddy fields. And also most of the Chollipo Arboretum is dedicated to the national park area. So we are working very hard, collaborating with the Korea National Park Authority. Off the west coast, there is a very small island. There is a natural habitat of the threatened Iris dichotoma. So we are working together for conservation of the natural habitat with the Korea National Park Authority. So it is very good partnerships to working together. There are more than 70 botanic gardens or arboretum in Korea so far, but only 2 or 3 arboreta has own library system. Fortunately, Forrest Miller left more than 25,000 books when he passed away, and he was dreamed to make a library and herbarium specimens, herbaria at the Arboretum. So one of the biggest commercial bank donated big money to renovate the library. So we can open last year in June and named this library as a Carl Perez Miller Library. So we are targeting to collecting 50,000 volumes of books on horticultural basis. And also we installed e-journal system. So every staff members can subscribe the journals at their desk. And I think this is one of the best horticultural library in Korean Botanic Gardens for Arboreta. And this post is get to support to donate the books. So I asked to the APGA and BGANG and BGCI. So last year, for example, we received more than 2,000 books to our library. So I must thank to all the people who donated the books from all over the world. Now I want to talk about magnolias in Korea shortly. As you may know, Korea has a long history, about more than 5,000 years. Amazingly, Korea has very good documentation from the royal family, names of annals of the Joseon dynasty. That means the recorded was inherited for 25 kingdoms for 472 years since 1392. It was amazing record. So the Korean government designated this record as a national treasure number 151. And also we memory designated as a memory of the world. From this record, I checked the item of magnolias. I found 2 items from 1647 and the year of 1792. They described of Magnolia denudata, but Magnolia denudata was imported from China, not native to Korean territory. So this tree species was introduced to Korea and planted at the pavilion in the stream side, because the pavilion at the stream side is very popular in Korea to enjoy reading, resting, and make a friends with each other in the community. So at that time, I thought that Magnolia denudata was one of the important landscaping tree species for traditional Korean gardens. This is the full blossoms of Magnolia denudata or heptapeta at the Korean home gardens. Another Magnolia species, Magnolia liliflora. Magnolia liliflora is planted at the home garden too, and also it is very popular at the moment in urban city park too. And the other introduced Magnolia species is Magnolia Avobata. Compared to other 2 species before, Magnolia Avobata was introduced from Japan with the purpose for timber production. So this species was intensively planted in the mountain areas. But as you see the plantation of this species in the photo, the quality of the timber looks not so good. So Magnolia Avobata is no longer used for timber, no longer planted for timber resources in Korea. You may see the postal stamps. It was printed in South Korea for Magnolia Sieboldii, and the same species was printed out in North Korea in commemoration of the 60 years old of the creation of Central Botanic Garden in Pyongyang, North Korea. It is very interesting because Magnolia Sieboldii is a national flower of North Korea. Could you see this gentleman? He's a famous botanist or horticulturist from Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University. He is Ernst Wilson. He visited Korea 1918 to collect woody species. And while he traveling in the middle part of the Korean peninsula, he found the Magnolia Sieboldii and described the habitat like this. And it is very interesting. He compared the climate in Massachusetts in comparing cold hardiness. I think the Korean origin of Magnolia Sieboldii is well adapted to the climate in the eastern part of the United States. And this gentleman is Perez Miller. And it's very interesting because Koreans is not well enjoyed magnolias because they seldom used very limited species, but Perez introduced magnolias intensively to Korea. So he is the pioneer who spread the magnolia species into Korean ornamental or horticultural fields. One mountain range stretches from north to south, from the east to southwest. So this dot is the mountain ranges of Magnolia Sieboldii, and we collected from the northern part of the South Korea. So, for example, this Magnolia Sieboldii has very light pink colors in the petals. So we are collecting in this northern part of South Korea. So in long-term basis, we want to collect all the areas because for the Chinese Holy, we collected almost 100% from the natural habitat in South Korea. So in the next stage, we want to collect Magnolia Sieboldii from all of the natural habitat in Korea.
Oh, hi, Dr. Kim. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we can't see your screen right now.
스크린이 안 보인다. From since when, please? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Could you see the screen? Could you see? No?
No, we can't see anything yet. That's okay. Maybe it just takes some time to load. But here it is. Everything looks good. We can see it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry to interrupt. Okay.
보이는데? 여기서 좀. Could you see the slide? Okay.
Yes. Everything looks great.
Yeah. And the other one native species of magnolia is Magnolia corvus. Magnolia corvus is only has natural habitat in Jeju Island in 3 wild populations like this. Chollipo Arboretum is here. It's about 250 kilometers in distance from Chollipo to Jeju Island. And this one is, I made a photo last fall of Magnolia corvus in the wild habitat. In one natural populations in Jeju Island, there are 60 individuals within 1 square kilometers. The highest one was 10 meters wide and 7 meters in width and 50 centimeters in DBH. So it's a part of evergreen broad-leaved forest in the island. And the other one is Magnolia Compressor. This Magnolia Compressor is only distributed in 2 areas, one in small islands in the southwest, and the other biggest populations in Jeju Island too. This is a flower of Magnolia Compressor. Also, same flowers is fully blossom of Magnolia Compressor, but both 3 species of natural species like Magnolia colbus, Magnolia sieboldii, and Magnolia Compressor are not well used or applied into Korean gardens. We don't know why they do not like magnolias, native magnolias in Korea in the gardens. And this is the part of the wild population of Magnolia Compressor. It is the main forest or population is composed of Castonopsis, Quercus acuta, and Camellia japonica. And this wild population is located about 500 meters from sea levels, and population size is about, we recorded about 26 individual trees are there, aged about 40 to 55 years, not so old ones. Chollipo Arboretum started collect magnolias for the first in March of 1972. The 4 magnolias was dead, which was introduced in the beginning stage. So the Magnolia Avobata collected in 1972 is still alive. This is a history of the introduction of magnolias to the Chollipo Arboretum. And in the first stage, most of the magnolias was introduced from the commercial nursery in the United States. I wonder why the cultivars of magnolias was introduced rather than collection of species levels. So at the moment, we are trying to collect species level in the wild habitat. This is one of the first introduced magnolias, Hendrix Parks. It was introduced in 1974. The tree size was not bigger compared to the time of introduction because the soil of the arboretum is very poor. We collected magnolias from 25 countries of the world by seedlings from graftings, seedlings from cuttings, saplings, science, cutting, or seeds. This one is the endangered, this one of Magnolia pink goblet. Please compare to the size of the people. It's gorgeous flowers and trees. And also we have very endangered, critically endangered magnolias. So this collection is widely used for display and education. I'll introduce 6 cultivars which raised at the Chollipo Arboretum. The first one is Magnolia strawberries and cream. This was raised from Magnolia denudata and Sprengeri variety Diva in 2001 and 2002. It has its pink colors, but uncertain as to exact characteristics or extension. The second one is Magnolia Yellow Sea. Yellow Sea means Chollipo Arboretum is facing the Yellow Sea. This cultivar was raised in 1981 between Acuminata and Denudata by Swedish botanists. And from that cultivars, Carl Felix Miller selected from yellow colored flowers and named Yellow Sea. And the other one is Big Bertha. It was raised from Magnolia Nomneri Leonard Messer, and the series was introduced to Chollipo Arboretum in 1978 from American Magnolia Society. And these cultivars has wide crowns, so named as Big Bertha. And Carl Felix Miller raised Nomneri Olivebird because it was raised from Magnolia Nomneri Ballerina, and it was flowering more earlier times, so he named like this. And also he raised Nomneri as raspberry pond for his mother, Mrs. Edna Overfield Miller, in 1987. This has much darker pink flowers compared to Leonard Messer. And also he raised Magnolia Kim Gunso from Magnolia Beach, Peter Beach, cross Magnolia Solangiana Nenai. And this cultivar has magenta colored compared to this species. And Mr. Kim Gun-so is deputy director at the Yale University Botanic Garden. And the Chollipo Arboretum is trying to propagate magnolia species by grafting and by tissue culture. So by grafting is a popular techniques, but we are trying to promote propagate by tissue culture, collaborating with the Korea Forest Service. This is the part of view of Magnolia Hill at Chollipo Arboretum. In the springtime, about at the end of April, it is amazing flowers visitors can be enjoyed. Coronavirus prevented us to have the Magnolia Society meeting at 2020. It was a poster which we prepared 2019. Chollipo Arboretum is here. Since last year, we are trying to planting magnolia species in the villages nearby. So since last 2 years, we planted 78 cultivars of magnolias at the home gardens of the community nearby the Chollipo Arboretum. So if we continue this planting of magnolias for several years, we can make a very characteristic villages or communities in Korea to enjoy magnolias flowers beyond the Chollipo Arboretum. So it is our very important task or work at the moment to linking community with the Chollipo Arboretum. This is the photo to planted magnolias at the home garden and also school campus at the primary school nearby. And also we are participating the Magnolia Conservation Consortium, Global Conservation Consortium for Magnolia. And this is very short introduction of magnolias and Chollipo Arboretum. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yong-Shik. Once my camera can get turned back on, I will be with everyone with many questions.
Yeah.
But while that's still getting figured out, and my colleague Fiona can help us get my camera turned back on. What an amazing presentation, and so much connection that you have, that Chollipo Arboretum has with the San Francisco Botanical Garden. Our history of both developing on sand dunes, our extensive magnolia collections, and also I will say, from a personal note, I actually was an intern for Kunso Kim back almost 10 years ago at the Morton Arboretum. So I had a very large smile on my face. Seeing his name mentioned, and I did not realize that he had a magnolia cultivar named after him. So no, it's all amazing stuff, and we have some really great and quite. There we go. I am back now finally, and I have some questions accumulated from our guests and myself as well, and so one of them is, I'm trying to, I've been taking notes and trying to get everyone accumulate all these different questions accumulated. So the first question is, with three magnolia species native to Korea but an extensive collection at your garden site, have you and your team traveled abroad to do any collection work in other countries?
That's our limitations.
Mm-hmm.
When I was interned in the middle of 1970s, the collections was very active in Korea and outside of Korea.
Okay.
But since the passed away of Perez Miller, this activity was stopped. I was very sad.
Yes.
So I tried to collect in the wild. For example, we are collaborating with Shanghai Botanic Garden or Chengsheng Botanic Garden to work for Chinese Holly. And also we are collecting tree species with Russia, but the coronavirus are preventing for this work. So we are waiting to fully traveling to Russia. So it is my target to collect in the wild of magnolias, including other tree species. It is our challenge at the moment.
Yes.
So work. And the other one thing is that we are collaborating, we're starting to collaborating with the nursery in Germany who raising the magnolia cultivars. So we are trying to collaboration works to raising cultivars together. So I think it's very good approach to working together for magnolias.
I love to hear that. Partnerships and collaboration is what makes all of this possible. I always like to talk about how the botanical garden community globally, we're not in competition with each other. It's such a fantastic community to be a part of because we share, we collaborate, we support each other. And I think it's really great to see how this is happening at another garden across the world from us at Chollipo Arboretum. I was also really interested in you showing some images about your tissue culture work, because we are also in a project with several other gardens in the United States to work on grafting and sharing rare species of magnolias between all the various gardens in the United States. And I was wondering, what other partners are you working with on your tissue culture, and what species are you focusing on?
So far, we just tried one cultivars, Magnolia Vulcan.
Oh, Vulcan, yes, we have one of them. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have very successful outputs. So I can send you one of the scientific papers on propagation of Magnolia Vulcan. I'll send you by email.
Please, that's exciting. Yeah. These successes make such a huge difference.
We want to extend because we have no laboratory ourselves. So we are collaborating with the institute outside.
Fantastic. That's really exciting. We had a question about Magnolia Compressor because it seems like it's quite rare. And do many other gardens globally grow this species? Because we don't have one in our collection. And just curious to see what kind of habitats it would normally grow in. Does it prefer colder, warmer climates? From your experience.
Yeah, it is very strange because the habitat is so limited in limited areas, but many people are not concerned about conservation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we are starting to working for the conservation in the wild habitat.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
no botanic gardens are planted Magnolia Compressor. Very rare to see in the garden.
That's unfortunate. It's very beautiful. The images you've shown, I've seen it once at another garden, and it's a very charming tree.
Yes.
Um, and maybe this leads to my next question. So how are you going to help other home gardens and city plantings in Korea plant more native species, but especially magnolias? Like how are you going to convince them to plant more of these beautiful species around?
Actually, when I preparing Magnolia Society International annual meeting at Chollipo,
Mhm.
I prepared a slogan as Magnolia beyond the Arboretum. There are two purposes. One is that why the peoples can only enjoy the beauty of magnolias in the Arboretum. It must be they planted at their home garden much better.
Exactly. Yes.
So we selected as a community, this community, because it is more important linking arboretum and community is getting more important by the day. So I think it's a very good tool to working together, make a much beautiful landscape in the area. So I think it's a very good partnership.
That is fantastic. No, this is perfect. You are speaking from the heart, and I agree with you 100%. This is how we make a big difference. This like the work you're doing and how you're promoting it is how botanical gardens make a difference, not only for conservation but also for urban horticulture to beautify home gardens. And this is really all quite stunning and fantastic. Thank you so
So
much.
I think this is one of the works for Perez Miller. He
Yeah.
doesn't like that.
Oh, I love it. Oh, perfect, perfect. Well, we're closing up. I don't have any more questions, but Dr. Yong-Shik, I can't thank you enough. I have learned so much from your presentation today, not about the history of magnolias in Korea, but really seeing how the Chollipo Arboretum and the San Francisco Botanical Garden have so much in common. And you and I are going to be emailing quite a bit more, I'm sure. I think there are some fantastic partnerships and some opportunities, and hopefully with COVID calming down, fingers crossed, I think there's some travel on the way, and I think we need to visit. I think you need to come out again during Magnolia season, and I need to come out and visit you at some point. So there's some really great things in the works.
I have two things to mention.
Please.
One is that my presentation is a very good chance to linking together with the San Francisco Botanic Garden. So first one is to communicate by email.
Yes.
And also the second stage is working together between two arboretum. Do you think so?
I think so. This is a perfect match.
Maybe we may have the same goal.
I think we do. Oh, definitely.
Thank you so much indeed.
Well, thank you so much, and we're gonna close today's session. And Dr. Yong-Shik, I cannot thank you again. And I know all of our guests have had a great time, and I will be in touch with you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely evening. All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.
In touch.